It's Amanda again. Today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on day 2. Talking in videos, speaking out loud is a way for me to kind of not just articulate things to myself, but also to reach out to other people. I couldn't find that much information on people who are actively recovering and not in either some kind of set regulated program like OA or something like that. And I also didn't find many sources of eating disorder and recovery discussions from people who were generally in my age group. I'm 45, I'm in midlife. A lot of people who are talking about this are younger, and I can relate to some of the stuff that they're dealing with, but also I have a lot of experiences that, at once provide me with a lot of insight and wisdom, and then another are like really overwhelming. It's overwhelming to work with a lot more. So, this is part for my own digestion of what I am doing to actively recover, and also for others, so that what I am doing hopefully may be of benefit, not just to myself, but to others. So I wanted to share a little bit about my philosophy of recovery, and part of the reason why a lot of resources for recovery hasn't really meshed with me. One, because I think of a lot of recovery resources are oriented to people who have a substance addiction, and the solution for substance addiction is often like eliminating that substance altogether. It is fundamentally different with food, and I have gone to like Overeaters Anonymous, and I think there's a Compulsive Eating Anonymous. I've gone to an eating disorder clinic, and as much as they say that the recovery is not about food and about reclaiming a relationship with yourself, people are fucking talking about food all the time. It drove me nuts. If I'm not supposed to be focused on food and I'm liberating myself from a compulsive coping mechanism and addictive habitual behavior by turning to food instead of myself, why am I on an eating plan? That doesn't sound like liberation to me. That sounds like a bunch of daily maintenance and work. And for some people, I think it works as a way of providing guidance and structure, but I've tried it enough times that it just doesn't work for me. So I knew I had to have something that was way more broad. Most recently, I tried a binge eating recovery group where you consider the urge to binge eating a pig and you put it in a cage, and it was fighting myself. I was constantly fighting myself, and I knew that by putting this impulse in a cage and considering my inclinations and cravings and urges as just simple survival mechanisms that can be told to shut up, that I was neglecting a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of kindness there that is being just like shoved to the side. I have this addiction, this quote-unquote eating disorder, this habitual pattern, this way of numbing and distancing myself and or soothing or reprimanding myself through food, through eating, through body hate. Fundamentally, for me, what recovery is recovering, refinding, reestablishing the relationship with myself, where I don't have to turn away from myself, but I can turn towards and trust myself. So for me, recovery is a very broad topic. At fundament, I'm turning away from myself, and I'm turning towards something external for help. I've reached this conclusion time and time again, and this is the last time I want to reach this conclusion, that turning to a substance or a behavior, food, or an eating plan to control how I feel, or to control the circumstances of my life, or to control how my life is just not working. So the thing that I really was reflecting on today is the idea of like turning away from myself and trying to control food and eating constantly in a state of fighting myself, in a state of defensiveness, being on guard. not feeling safe around food, not feeling safe around myself, that I can see a dinner and just eat. I thought to myself today, what would it be like to have zero problems, to never think about food or eating or how much my body weighs or what my body looks like? What would that look like? What would that feel like? One, that would feel like this absolute release, this absence of problem is so, it's just so beautiful and blank. And the second thing I realized was, I don't think a single day has gone by from after the age of 10 or 11 of never thinking about food as good or bad or right or wrong or allowed or not allowed or something healthy or not healthy. I have never had a single day where I didn't in some way have a judgment or a disparaging thought or disdain for how I interacted with food and how I approached eating. And then I couldn't think of a single day where I have not had a thought, even if it was fleeting, of not liking what I looked like, or not believing that I was acceptable or attractive or good enough. If I'm really honest, something along those lines, some judgment, some disdain, some determination of good or bad or worthy or acceptable or not, is just constantly chattering in my mind and in my belief system and how I approach myself at all times. Oops, that's my cat. Come on, baby. Yeah, I closed the door and the cat's like, no closed doors. Do not restrict me. He's my beautiful cat. Oopsie. Hi, beautiful kitty. Mwah. How can I say no? He's so beautiful. Will you stay with me? Yes, stay with me. So that was really quite profound and a little poignant and sad. Really sad. If I think I'm 45 years old now, I've essentially spent 3 decades of my life not trusting myself, not feeling safe in myself, not being able to rely on myself, not feeling protected, that I can handle a meal or that I can like the way I look or just take people's words for it, that they're my friends and my partner and my family and they love me. There was at once this poignancy, and then I thought, okay, so there's this sense of either judgment, like I'm doing this right or wrong, eating and approaching food, or I have a feeling of fuck it. Why bother? I'll just go ahead and eat anything. Or I can't control myself, so I'm just gonna let it all go, right? And when I was thinking of that pattern, I realized, holy cow, if I've spent 3 decades constantly scrutinizing, relentlessly judging myself, of course I have these moments where I'm just I gotta give myself a break. And that break is fuck it, I'll just gain a bunch of weight. Fuck it, I'll never be able to control this. Fuck it, I give up. In a really disempowered way, Not I choose to liberate myself from this pattern of thinking, but I have no choice but to succumb to this. When I saw that pattern of succumbing to the binge or just gaining tons of weight as a release mechanism, as finally I could just give myself a break, I realized the tense control that I had over myself and how sad that is. And also how in a very misguided way, I was taking care of myself. This was actually me trying to help myself in one way, overeating, giving in, just that whole binge for days, for weeks, for years is a way of soothing this constant relentless criticism, this constant relentless inner dialogue of like, you're not good enough, you'll never be good enough. As much as it's this terrible thing, I also saw it as like, oh, I am really trying to take care of myself. I can, with this realization and through work, like change how I take care of myself. But I have been telling myself that I needed to learn how to take care of myself. I need to finally take care of myself. I need to finally love myself. In my own messed up way, I already have been. And it was such a poignant, heart-touching moment where I realized, oh, I actually have been consistently showing up for myself. I have been consistently loving and caring myself. I have been consistently trying to care for myself. I have been trying to give myself a break from constant pressure, a constant hard time. Like, I just saw that there's so much love there. And circling back to, some of the recovery programs about eating that just like essentially tell you to override and dismiss these binges to urges to binge by caging the pig or whatever, there was a distorted wisdom and love and self-care in that, in succumbing to binging and overeating and taking the pressure off and just trying to make myself feel better in the moment. Perhaps I've had these moments before where I've realized like, oh, I am kind of taking care of yourself, but this time it was so poignant and I really felt my heart kind of opening up. And I felt this really tender sadness of like, I have actually really been trying. And it was very, very touching. So I didn't have the same judgment of myself for binging or turning to food or giving myself a break and going off of a diet or, saying, fuck it, why bother? It's actually that impulse and that behavior is a way of me trying to take care of myself. So those were things that I really reflected on and spent some time today thinking and touching in with, appreciating that I have been trying to protect myself, that I have been trying to take care of myself through an eating disorder, and that I already have the ability, it's already there, the active, consistent showing up for myself. I just didn't see that before, that I've actually already always been there for myself. I've just been, unfortunately, simultaneously keeping myself stuck in a pattern of suffering, but I have been taking care of myself, and for so long, I've been like, Amanda, get your act together. Take care of yourself. Why don't you see this? Why can't you take responsibility? And I have been. It's just been really distorted and misguided based on this belief that something outside of myself can give me a sense of comfort or safety or help when I've actually been helping myself. And it's like, I don't need this other thing to do it. So it's just kind of dawning on me. Anyway, those are my day 2 thoughts. Bye.